Fans of the bold and the beautiful have speculated endlessly about Daphne being Brooke Logan's long-lost daughter, despite the fact that the character's current narrative arcs point in quite different ways. Amid the realm of daytime drama, where secrets buried for decades are suddenly revealed with a simple DNA test or an emotional confession, such a shock would be quite at home amid Los Angeles high society and Forrester family upheaval. Brooke Logan, the perennial romantic with a history of passionate relationships, complex pregnancies, and sad losses, has consistently been the subject of stunning revelations about her children. Brooke's parental path has been anything but easy, from Bridget, who was initially thought to be Eric Forrester's, but was later revealed to be Ridge's due to a twist of fate and reversed paternity results, to Hope, whose paternity bounced between Ridge and Deacon Sharp before settling. Imagine the scene developing in typical soap opera style, a tranquil evening at the Forrester estate or Brooke's magnificent residence overlooking the city lights. Brooke, still graceful and poised after years of emotional upheaval, could be drinking tea or looking through old photographs when an unexpected parcel arrives. Inside, a faded letter or a pendant bearing a familiar inscription alludes to a kid she thought was lost forever. Daphne Rose, the elegant and enigmatic lady who has suddenly weaved herself into Carter Walton's and the Forrester Circle's life, takes a step forward with shaking hands, clutching proof that may change everything. The connection would be explosive because Daphne has previously been sexually and theatrically tied to crucial individuals, making a biological connection to Brooke appear both impossible and inevitable in the show's heightened reality. Brooke's past is riddled with examples of extreme motherhood. There was a moment when she feared she had lost a kid due to a miscarriage or an unsuccessful adoption, or perhaps a baby was snatched from her in the haze of a difficult birth during one of her many turbulent periods. During the soap's 1980s and 1990s run, stories frequently involved concealed pregnancies, exchanged babies at hospitals, or even abductions staged by envious rivals. Daphne may have been conceived during one of Brooke's turbulent periods, perhaps during her early days with Ridge, in the shadow of her marriage to Eric, or perhaps as a result of a lesser-known flirtation that Brooke buried deep in her memory to protect her reputation and heart. The writers could script it such that Daphne was given up for adoption and raised far away in Paris, to match her sophisticated background and accent, only to return to Los Angeles years later, without knowing her true heritage. Daphne's entrance has already added levels of intrigue. She entered the canvas as a sophisticated entrepreneur with connections to international fashion circles, instantly catching the eye of Carter, who has long sought solid love following a number of near misses. Their chemistry developed gradually, via flirting, misunderstandings, and eventual devotion, ending in an engagement and wedding plans that promised happiness. If Daphne was revealed to be Brooke's daughter, it would shatter her fragile joy. Carter, who has been like family to the Logans and Forresters for years, would be confronted with the tragedy of having fallen for someone who was blood-related to his best friends. Brooke would reel from the shame of failing to recognize her own flesh and blood, doubting every missed opportunity to connect. The emotional impact would have far-reaching consequences. Brooke's loving daughter, Hope Logan, has always desired a stable family unit, despite the upheaval around her. Finding a new sister in Daphne may cause both joy and jealousy, another sibling competing for Brooke's attention, especially if Daphne's presence reveals Brooke's past misdeeds. Ridge Forrester, ever the protective patriarch, may suspect foul play or a fraud, given how many times paternity mysteries have upended his life. Steffi, who is extremely loyal to her mother Taylor and skeptical of anything that boosts Brooke's dominance, may see this revelation as yet another way Brooke manipulates events to maintain her center position. Taylor Hayes may even give reluctant sympathy, understanding the plight of hidden children from her own past. Imagine the confrontation. Brooke and Daphne in a private room at Forrester Creations, the air thick with tension. Brooke's eyes widen as Daphne outlines the clues, which include a birthmark, a family heirloom, and DNA findings from an inconspicuous test. Brooke tears up as she recalls a vague memory of a tough pregnancy that she believed ended in loss. "I never stopped wondering," Brooke might say softly, her voice breaking. Daphne, strong yet fragile, could respond with a mix of rage and longing, Years of feeling out of place, looking for belonging, only to find it in the most convoluted family possible. The hug that followed would be cautious at first, then intense, as mother and daughter reconciled decades of estrangement. Of course, the program thrives on complexity. What if the discovery happens at Daphne's wedding to Carter? The ceremony was interrupted by a dramatic entrance, with documents shoved forward, proving the impossible. Perhaps it arises during a corporate struggle, where Daphne's investment in a company is linked to a failed Forrester-Logan transaction from years ago. The paternity twist could even point to Eric Forrester himself, given previous rumors and fan theories that suggested Daphne was Eric and Brooke's hidden kid, but canon has Bridget in that role. The writers enjoy playing with these echoes, reminding audiences that history repeats itself in cycles of love, betrayal, and rediscovery. Brooke's persona has grown over the years, from a naive ingenue to a woman who accepts her sensuality and faults alike. A long-lost daughter tale would provide her with fresh depth, opportunities to guide Daphne in business and love, to heal old scars, and possibly to address why she let some chapters of her life to end without conclusion. Daphne, who has demonstrated drive and resilience, might develop into a more complex character, no longer merely a sexual interest, but a Logan woman with her own flames and foibles. Their relationship may begin difficult, Daphne resenting Brooke for abandoning, Brooke overcome with remorse, but soap operas excel at redemption arcs. Shared coffee moments, late-night discussions about men and heartbreak, and fashion design collaborations could all help to create trust over time. The Logan family's dynamic would change radically. Brooke's sisters, Katie and Donna, would gather around to offer support while chatting about the miracle. RJ and Hope may feel protective, ensuring Daphne isn't overwhelmed by the spotlight. However, friction would simmer. Daphne's modern outlook clashing with Brooke's more traditional love ideals, or Daphne's relationship with Carter upsetting matters even more if uncertainties about their future remained. Finally, such a revelation would underscore the central theme of The Bold and the Beautiful. Family is everything, even whether it is fractured, concealed, or rediscovered in unexpected ways. Brooke has always fought for her children, despite scandals, custody battles, and grief. Adding Daphne as her long-lost daughter would give her another chance to demonstrate that love persists, that blood calls to blood across time and distance. The drama would be intense, the emotions numerous, and the numbers would skyrocket as people tuned in to see how this bombshell reshaped the canvas. While current episodes center on Daphne's marriage to Carter, her desire for a family, and the interpersonal complexities surrounding Hope, Liam, and others, fan conjecture keeps these potential routes alive. YouTube channels and forums are buzzing with what-if scenarios, edited recordings of DNA reveals, and emotional reunions. It's the beauty of serialized storytelling. Nothing is ever fully closed, and a character like Daphne, with her aura of mystery, opens up unlimited possibilities. If the authors ever decided to go there, it would be a seismic shift, honoring Brooke's history as a mother while providing Daphne a strong anchor in the tale. Brooke would hug her daughter, muttering apologies for the lost time and promising to make up for each missed birthday and milestone. Daphne, perhaps cautious at first, would soften as she realized the lady in front of her was not the villain of her childhood fantasies, but rather a flawed, caring human in search of connection. The Forrester-Logan feud may cease briefly in the face of this miracle, or it may worsen as old rivals emerge in new forms. In either case, the show would provide the emotional payoff audiences seek: love defeating secrets, family enduring chaos, and hope rising from the ashes of the past. In a story that spans decades, adding another layer to Brooke's motherhood story feels appropriate. Daphne, as her long-lost daughter, would be more than simply a story surprise. It would demonstrate the enduring power of family bonds in a world where fashion empires rise and fall, romances flame and fade, but blood remains the unbreakable link. The discovery would reverberate across Los Angeles society, reminding everyone that in the bold and beautiful world of soap operas, the past is never fully buried. It patiently waits for the proper moment to resurface. The revelation begins gently, almost invisibly, like a long-buried secret that even those closest to it are unaware of. For years, Brooke carried memories of grief, blunders, and decisions that molded her life in Los Angeles. She'd been through scandals, betrayals, passionate romances, and agonizing separations. However, there was one memory she rarely allowed herself to recall, one chapter she kept hidden so thoroughly that even those closest to her never quite understood the burden she carried. Brooke was in a desperate and vulnerable state many years ago, before the world of fashion houses and family disputes devoured her everyday life. She was young, scared, and alone in ways she had never revealed to anyone. Circumstances escalated out of control, resulting in a pregnancy she feared would wreck her future and devastate the fragile connections in her life at the moment. Fear drove her to make a decision that she would regret for decades. The baby she carried was abandoned shortly after birth. The adoption was conducted quietly and fast. Only a few people knew the truth, and they ultimately faded from her life. Brooke convinced herself that the child had found a better life far away, reared by parents capable of providing the stability she imagined she lacked. Brooke gradually rebuilt her life, piece by piece. She grew stronger, more confident, and deeply linked to the complex family dynamics that surrounded her. She raised children, loved sincerely, and fought hard for those who were important to her. However, there were evenings when she would look out at the Los Angeles skyline and worry about the child she had never met. She wondered how that daughter looked. She wondered if the girl possessed her eyes or her unwavering determination. Most importantly, she worried if that youngster grew up feeling loved. Across town, another narrative had been brewing for years with no one comprehending the link that would eventually tear everything apart. Daphne only recently arrived in Los Angeles, and she rapidly established herself as a confident and intellectual lady who seemed to understand people better than they did themselves. She had a natural charisma and could negotiate complex circumstances with remarkable ease. Many people quickly recognized her, but few understood anything about her background. When asked about her family, she would constantly give cryptic responses. She explained that she had grown up going from place to place, raised by loving adoptive parents who had died several years before. According to her account, she moved to Los Angeles to start over and create something important for herself. People were fascinated by Daphne. She had an incredible capacity to detect emotional tension in a room and gently direct talks that disclosed buried facts. It felt as if she could see right into people's hearts. Nobody knew that Daphne had spent the most of her life searching for answers. Her adoptive parents were loving and supportive, but they never concealed the fact that she was adopted. They informed her that she originated from a challenging situation and that her biological mother made a difficult decision out of love. When Daphne was old enough to understand, her curiosity grew. Who was her mother? Why did she give her away? Was she still alive? Years passed before Daphne summoned the courage to begin searching. The process was slow and frustrating. Records were sealed, information was missing, and everybody who could have known something had long ago vanished. But Daphne persisted. Eventually, a small piece of information surfaced in an old adoption record. A name had been partially deleted, but Daphne was able to piece together a possible identity using the letters that remained. Brooke. Initially, the name meant nothing to her. However, as Daphne continued her investigation, she learned that the woman associated with that name had become a well-known figure in Los Angeles society, with ties to influential families and the fashionable fashion sector. Daphne did not instantly believe the relationship might be genuine. The notion that someone so powerful could be her biological mother seemed almost unfathomable. Nonetheless, the clues continued to align. The dates matched. The locations matched. Even physical descriptions suggested similarities. Daphne eventually reached a conclusion. Rather than tackling the situation directly, she would relocate to Los Angeles and observe from afar. She wanted to understand the woman who could be her mother before revealing herself. That decision thrust her squarely into the orbit of the very familial dynamics that had influenced Brooke's existence for decades. Daphne felt an unusual and overwhelming sense of familiarity the first time she saw Brooke in person.
It was impossible to describe.
Brooke was laughing with friends, and her energy filled the room as it often did. However, Daphne sensed something more than adoration or interest. She felt recognized. Daphne kept a close eye on things after that. She examined Brooke's facial expressions, voice, and reactions to emotional circumstances. The more she observed, the more confident she became that this link was genuine. Meanwhile, Brooke observed Daphne at events and gatherings. There was something fascinating about the young woman. Brooke couldn't explain why, but every time Daphne entered a room, he felt a strange sense of déjà vu. Their chats were always courteous and cordial, but with a subtle charge that neither of them could define. At one occasion, the tension between curiosity and coincidence reached unprecedented heights. Daphne and Brooke found themselves alone on a balcony that overlooked the city lights. The chat began casually, but gradually shifted to more serious themes. Daphne posed insightful questions regarding Brooke's background, regrets, and life choices. Brooke responded truthfully, probably more honestly than she would normally allow herself to be with someone she hardly knew. Brooke once stated that everyone has secrets from their past. Daphne examined her attentively and inquired whether Brooke had ever lost someone she desired to find again. The question hit Brooke harder than she expected. For a moment, she was unable to speak. That long-buried recollection emerged in her thoughts with surprising clarity. She quietly explained that she had lost someone many years ago. A daughter. The confession hung in the air between them like a thin thread linking two different worlds. Daphne felt her heart racing, but she stayed cool on the outside. She asked a few more soft questions, careful not to betray how important the answers were to her. Brooke revealed that the child was abandoned shortly after birth, and she had never been able to locate her again. Brooke's eyes welled up with emotions near the end of her speech. Daphne left the conversation with mixed emotions. The truth appeared closer than ever, but she still required proof. Over the next 3 weeks, she surreptitiously acquired conclusive confirmation via DNA testing. The outcomes altered everything. Brooke was her mother. For several days, Daphne grappled with the weight of her discoveries. Part of her wanted to hurry to Brooke right then and tell her the truth. Another part feared that revealing the secret would shatter the fragile lives they had built together. She also wondered how Brooke would react. Would she experience joy, shock, guilt, or does she wish the past had remained buried? The choice was finally made during a dramatic family gathering when tensions were already high due to other issues. Emotions were running high, secrets were being revealed, and accusations were flying. Daphne understood the moment she'd been avoiding had arrived. She walked up and requested everyone's attention. The room fell silent as everyone turned to gaze at her. Brooke watched with fascination, thinking that something significant was about to occur. Daphne spoke quietly at first, stating that she had come to Los Angeles to seek answers about her history. She reported growing up knowing she was adopted and always wondered about her biological parents. The room became increasingly quiet as people listened. Daphne then stared directly at Brooke. Her voice softened. She added that her search eventually brought her to a woman whose life had crossed paths with hers long before either of them understood it. Brooke experienced a strange chill rush through her body. Daphne explained that the woman she was looking for was standing right in the room. The silence became nearly unbearable. Finally, Daphne said the words that changed everything. Brooke was her mother. Gasps rang throughout the room as the truth hit like a shockwave. Brooke glanced at Daphne, trying to understand what she'd just heard. She was unable to breathe for a brief period. Then memories surged back with startling force. The pregnancy, the terror, the decision she thought she could never reverse. Her daughter, standing directly in front of her. Brooke's eyes welled up with tears as she approached Daphne, hoping to confirm what her heart was coming to think. Daphne softly delivered her the DNA findings. Brooke's hands trembled as she read the documents. There was no doubt. The daughter she had lost all those years ago had finally returned to her life. She was utterly overwhelmed with emotion. Brooke drew Daphne into an embrace that appeared to hold decades of longing, remorse, and hope. The crowd was startled with quiet as mother and daughter held each other for the first time. For Brooke, the moment seemed like a miracle she had never imagined. For Daphne, It felt like the end of a lifelong quest. Even while euphoria flooded the air, everyone there was aware that the revelation would have far-reaching implications. Family dynamics would shift. Old wounds would reopen. The complex world they all shared would never be the same again. Nonetheless, none of those prospective concerns were relevant at the time. All that mattered was that a mother and daughter, separated by time, fear, and circumstance, had finally reunited.